You're listening to Power Talk, Berkeley Electric Cooperative's official broadcast about the cooperative, our communities, and ways to use energy wisely. And now, let's join our hosts for today's episode. Good morning and welcome to Power Talk. This is Mike Aponte, the Communications and Media Specialist here at Berkeley Electric Cooperative, joined as always by Miss Libby Roig, the Director of Marketing and Communications.
Good morning, Micah.
Good morning. Well, we have a special guest in today. It's a little bit different topic than we would normally tackle here on Power Talk, but it is Mr. Lonnie Cowart, the, let's see if I can get this right, CNSYD alumni and reunion organizer. Lonnie, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. First of all, tell us what CNSYSD stands for.
It's Charleston Naval Shipyard, and I want to say good morning and glad to be here, and thanks for inviting me.
Oh, definitely. Welcome to the show. And, you know, one of the things that we do when we're here on Power Talk is when we have new people on the show is we always want to greet them with a ceremonial mug. This is yours to keep and treasure, or as we say, sell at Goodwill. Whatever you need to do.
We believe in the product, though. It's a nice sized mug, very simple, eye-appealing design.
Very nice, very nice. I appreciate that.
And it holds the beverage of your choice.
Put it to good use.
Yeah.
And the other part that we do when we have somebody new on the show is we ask them to share a little bit about themselves, their background, and how they ended up here with us today.
Sounds good. Well, I've got a few notes here, and I'll make sure I stay on track with you. Married, got 2 children, 4 grandchildren, and fortunate enough to be retired and still here in the Charleston area. So that's a good thing.
Are you from this area originally?
I am.
Okay.
I'm a third-generation Charlestonian.
Oh.
My grandfather and my father grew up downtown Charleston.
Oh, wow.
And my dad attended schools on the peninsula and specifically went to Murray Vocational School down there downtown. I grew up in the 50s and 60s in North Charleston around Park Circle, which is a great place to grow up. It's very coming back real strong, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I went to the local schools of Ben Tillman, Park Circle, Shakora High School here locally. Spent my youth at Park Circle playing basketball and baseball and spending lots of time at the Park Circle Community Center coming up. Some of the folks in the shipyard, you know, they worked at the not only just at the shipyard, but some of the folks in North Charleston worked at Ray Bestis Manhattan or at the paper mill. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the people in the low country, you know, worked at the shipyard. So it was a big place to work. Sometimes at some stages we were 8,000 to 10,000 people that worked there. My grandfather worked there for a brief period of time, and my dad started work there in the mid-50s, and then he retired in 1987 from the shipyard. He was an inside machinist and then got some experience in nuclear repair and went into nuclear engineering field and worked in reactor engineering. And that's where they do a lot of the refueling work on the submarines. Many of the submarines that were based here in Charleston. You know, Charleston was a great place to grow up and work. Shipyard not only provided a real secure livelihood, but it also gave back to the community and also provided a great defense for our nation. We often refer to the contributions of our employees as generations of dedication, you know, and that could not be more accurate.
Yeah. Well, you know, we are looking forward to talking about and learning a little more about the annual reunion that the Charleston Naval Shipyard has. But, you know, if you are kind of new to the area or within the last 25 years moved to this area, you may not be aware that there was such a major employer and outfit at the Naval Yard. So just to take a little bit of a trip down memory lane here and cover some of the history. Mr. Lonnie, please jump in if I get something wrong. This is my extensive Googling that I did to prepare for the show. But the Charleston Naval Shipyard started operations in 1901 as a dry dock and expanded into a naval facility. And as you mentioned, it played an important role in the defense of our country, supporting the efforts in the World Wars, Korea, Vietnam, and the Cold War. And anytime we talk about anything naval related, it always reminds me of my dad. We lost him in 2021 unexpectedly, and he was a Vietnam vet serving in the Navy. So, you know, always just very proud of his service and the support that goes in to make a major operation like that work. But the shipyard had 256 vessels built there, including 21 destroyers and thousands of other different naval vehicles were supported there. Hundreds of thousands of people were employed in the 95-year history, which pumped millions of dollars not only into the local economy but the state economy. I mean, it was such an important employer for the entire state, not just Charleston. And it ceased operations in 1996 as a result of the recommendations from the 1993 BRAC Commission, the Base Realignment and Closure Commission. But it's also still a huge success story. It was a scary time when they announced the shipyard was closing, but the economy has recovered, and parts of the base and the dry dock have been leased out to both private and government business, and there's really a thriving community public space that's been established there. So, Mr. Lonnie, tell us about, a little more about your career and your time at the shipyards and the type of work that you did there and your experiences.
Certainly. Good synopsis of the shipyard there. Great job. First of all, I took the apprentice test back in 1977 and started that same year working in the production shop as a pipe fitter on the ships and submarines that were there. With the experience in nuclear repair, I was promoted to nuclear inspector. And my final position was with the IMA Nuclear Plant Yard. That was an intermediate maintenance activity. There's a lot of acronyms, when you're dealing with
Oh, yeah.
The same thing here in our industry as well.
Yeah.
It's like an alphabet soup, so I got to be very careful trying to. So it's the IMA Nuclear Plant Yard as a nuclear engineering technician, and I was training the Navy folks on quality control. So that's how I ended up at the shipyard. Then in '94, when the base closure was announced, our group was one of the fortunate ones to be transferred to be able to continue federal employment. And the IMA Nuclear Plant Yard was transferred to Norfolk Naval Shipyard. And many of the folks that I work with moved up there and built a new life up there, and kids going to school and built houses. But I had some heavy family ties here, so I didn't really want to relocate. So I was looking at a lot of other options. But in the meantime, for a year and a half, I commuted 437 miles one way once a week up there to continue the training classes that I held with the Quality Assurance Officers course. So I commuted back and forth for a year and a half.
Oh, my gosh.
You can understand having two teenage kids about that time. It was a pretty good bit of challenge.
That's dedication.
Having 19 years of government work at that stage, it was, trying to continue health insurance and pre-existing conditions. There's a lot of factors come into play when you're trying to maintain a career, and ultimately that was your goal, to have a federal career and then have it upended by BRAC. So in '96, I was able to do a job swap with an employee that was up in Norfolk. It was NICE East, which was Naval In-Service Engineering East. Used to be part of Navalex. So there was a NICE East employee that was scheduled to relocate as part of another BRAC to Charleston. So I was able to match up and do a job swap. So that person took my position with the Norfolk Planning Yard and then retired, and I took their position to transfer down here with NICE East at that time. So in NICE East, that a little later on, it might the name ring a bell. It became SPAWAR Charleston, then SPAWAR System Center Atlantic, and then ultimately NIWIC Atlantic, which is Naval Information Warfare Center Atlantic. And that's what it's named today. Jobs I held there were protocol officer, public affairs officer, supervisor of public affairs, and was able to retire as the director of corporate communications. Okay. So I had a great opportunity, and retired after 42 years of civil service. And I was fortunate to have a rewarding career with the shipyard, but then also with the Navy Cyber Lab, SPAWAR, for some of the work they do and are continuing to do today in support of the nation. They do some great work out there.
Yeah. With all the traffic here, we complain about our commute if it's, but to go to Summerville to downtown, it can take you over an hour most days. But that 7-hour commute to Norfolk for a year and a half, that's crazy. a sister who is also in the Navy, and she was stationed at Virginia Beach, and they settled at Chesapeake. So every time we go to visit, it's a 6-7 hour drive. So it's not something you can drive up and back.
Interesting with you guys being in the podcast business, it's it was important to me. I love to listen to music, so riding up and down I-95, instead of just listening to the music, I'd put it on a podcast or books on tape.
Yeah.
So that was an opportunity for me to personally grow while driving. So that was the time well spent.
Yeah.
And it went by much faster too.
Yeah.
Well, anybody who's from the Charleston area sort of knows that Charleston does have a proud naval tradition, and of course the thing that pops into most people's heads is going to be the Yorktown. That's the famous aircraft carrier that's been in Charleston for long time.
As long as I can remember.
Yeah. Talking about the history of the shipyard, were there any notable ships that you can remember that were commissioned by the shipyard during its tenure?
Well, the time that I was there, was past the shipbuilding phase during some of the wars, and we were mostly involved in the refueling and the overhauls and the refurbishment of some of the submarines that were in active duty now. Okay. So that was primarily, and that was a huge contribution because they were unique. Some of the reactors we were involved with were the fast attacks, the SSNs and then the SSBNs. And then we were involved in some of the decommissioning. Even the 2 submarines that were up at the Naval Weapons Station that were reactors, that there were more training ships, those were converted from active duty submarines, SSBNs, to more training ships by taking the missile tubes out and turning them into a training opportunity up there at the weapons station. And there's still some submarines up there today that serve that purpose.
Speaking of submarines, and the Yorktown, they had one there that you could, tour and go through the submarine, and it very quickly taught me that I would have never been able to make it as a submariner. I'm not the tallest guy in the world, but even I felt very claustrophobic.
I know I can tell you some stories about that. Being 6'2" and working on those submarines as much as I did during my career, it's a lot of head bumping. Had a little bit more hair there, but some of it turns gray and then some of it turns loose, right? So the bottom line is you bumped your head a lot, and thank God for hard hats. Because otherwise you had a lot of gashes in your head from bumping your head on all those.
But, I'm a tall woman. I'm 5'11", and aircraft carriers are not made for tall people either, because I've been through several aircraft carriers, including the Yorktown and a battleship, and I've got to pay attention to what I'm doing. And I don't like heights, and there's lots of climbing and unexpected high places in some of these big warships. So I don't think I'd be fit for service either.
Working on those submarines and ships and in the dry docks, you're working anywhere from ballast tanks to various tanks where you have gas controls, and it's just an abundance of variety of workplaces and challenging. And then to be able to work such a critical, type of work to such small, measurements, that it's a big challenge, and it's not much room for error. So there's a lot of dedicated people there who were very talented to do the type of work they did.
Well, Libby was talking about Googling, and of course I was doing some for this show too, because I've gone down the rabbit hole a couple of times on naval things. But when I was looking for like ships that the shipyard had made, and they found that they did like the tenders, the destroyer tenders, which were the ships, the support ships, sort of like the Navy Yard was,
ADs.
Yeah. So I thought that was very interesting that one of the things that people don't think about, you've got these huge ships out there in the ocean, and of course they're the star of the show. Yeah. But to keep them out there and functioning, there's a whole secondary level of support of people that have to be there to make sure that those ships are shipshape and running correctly and being serviced. And then one of the other reasons why I went down a little bit of a naval rabbit hole is because we have a drive that we make to one of our offices that goes through the National Forest, Highway 401 and 402 and 41, going back down to Allendale area. And driving down that way, kept seeing these giant orange boats that are just piled up in this guy's yard. And finally one day I stopped and looked and trying to figure out what they are. And they had the name on them, the U.S., I'll probably say it wrong, Kanawha, but it's a USNS ship. So it's a naval support ship. They were the self-enclosed giant evacuation lifeboats that would launch off the side of this. It was an oil ship, an oil tanker that went out and serviced the ships when they were out in the ocean and everything else like that. And somehow, some way, there's like 16 of these self-contained, very large orange lifeboats just sitting in some guy's yard in the middle of the national forest.
Part of history.
Yes.
You know, there was some history many years ago with some of the minesweepers that they built, some of the wooden boats that they built. There's a lot of history there. But, you know, the type of ships that we worked on, you know, we couldn't get carriers underneath the Cooper River Bridge. So we didn't work on the carriers like many other the shipyards did. And the depth being 50 foot, you know, some of the submarines based on size. And so there's a lot of factors on what kind of ships. So primarily the shipyard, at least during modern times, you know, worked on the SSBNs and the fast attacks, the SSNs, and then a number of surface craft as well. And then we had Submarine Squadron 6 down there in the Navy base in the southern part of the yard. And then that's where a lot of the submarines, you know, different squadrons were. And we supported that work and kept them refueled and kept them ready to go.
Right.
Well, you know, Berkeley Electric is proud to provide a small sponsorship to help support the Charleston Naval Shipyard reunion. These past few years, our longtime member and Goose Creek resident, Mr. Don Keinert, I've gotten to know him a little bit, reaches out every year and asks if we can offer a small donation to help offset some of your costs. So we're always happy to help support in some way an initiative that's important to our members. So, Mr. Lonnie, why is this reunion important to the people who worked at the shipyards?
Well, first of all, we appreciate the efforts of Berkeley Electric over the years to support us in the event. We've got some other partners like South Carolina Credit Union, you know, Navy Yard Charleston, and a number of other local groups that help us pull this off each year. And by you guys and our go-getter, we call him a go-getter, Don Keinert, because he's a tremendously proactive individual. Somebody you really want to have on your team if you're trying to get something accomplished.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
For sure. So we appreciate you guys coming out, inviting me out today to share the information so that we can get the word out to some of the reunion folks that to attend the reunion that might not have heard about it otherwise. So we appreciate your efforts and your support. But Shipyard absolutely was more than a workplace. And some periods there were probably 8,000 to 10,000 people working there at one time. The talented craftsmen and engineers, everybody worked together to accomplish critical work, you know, on a timely basis, on time and on cost, and with the highest quality, of course. But Shipyard gave back to the community. You know, we had folks that were baseball, football coaches. You know, they gave back to the community in many ways. Girl or Boy Scout masters, had some volunteer in the school, and they were the fabric of the community. So they didn't just work there, you know, they lived there. And many gave a pint of blood to the Red Cross every 56 days. You know, some of them gave some parts of their paycheck to the Trident United Ways combined federal campaign. You know, some of the folks bought saving bonds to support the local governments and the defense of the nation too. So everybody was part of the community, and everybody helped along the way, so it made a difference. Then base closure happened in '96. Some folks were transferred. Some went to work in the private community. Some folks had just enough time to retire to take an early retirement, so everybody was kind of splintered and went different directions and were kind of fractured and lost that fabric of network of people that you work with on a daily basis when you have a size that group that work that closely together. We lost a lot of contact with folks. Now with social media, we're reconnecting again and being able to try to bring those folks back together in the form of a reunion. And so we started, this is our fourth one coming up, and we're trying to do it every 2 years.
Okay.
We started in 2019, and then COVID hit, and we had to go 3 years. So, you know, all remember the nightmare associated with that. So we got back together in 2022, and then we had one, the last one was 2024. And the next one's coming up March 28th in 2026. It's where we are now. We're about 59 days away. So we've been doing a lot of planning. We've got a great community that's got a lot of lessons learned. And we're reaching out to people to try to make sure they connect and have those life experiences and tell those stories and get together and have some great food and actually get those folks back together that had that network again. And it's real important so that we can reconnect those generations of dedication.
Well, folks, if you're just tuning in, we're just a little bit over halfway through this edition of Power Talk, and we are talking with Mr. Alani Calwart, who is an alumnus of the Naval Shipyard, the Charleston Naval Shipyard, and working on the reunion organizer for the event that we were just talking about, which is getting the folks back together. History is an important part of Charleston, and we appreciate the fact that y'all are doing your part for the Naval Shipyard, which was such an important part of Charleston's history for almost 100 years. And like you said, impacted the lives of so many communities through the work that y'all did at the shipyard, providing support for our nation's defense, as well as just the individual actions of your employees in the community. And one of the things that Berkeley Electric likes to do is we, like Libby mentioned, we like to support like-minded organizations, and community support is extremely important to Berkeley Electric Cooperative. We try to be embedded in our communities as much as we can through all the activities that you mentioned, and supporting the festivals and the nonprofits and organizations like yours. So thank you, for once again for what y'all were doing.
Yeah, definitely. Our CEO has been with us, I think going on 5 years now, Mike Fuller. And nobody tell him that I'm about to compliment him. But before he had officially started, we were coordinating on the announcement and different groups to reach out to. And one of the first groups he wanted to make sure he had regular touch bases with was our retirees. And that has been so fulfilling for me to engage with a lot of these folks I didn't know, but he brings them together twice a year for a company update and fellowship, and just really to honor their service, and because they have built the co-op to what it is today, not us. We're just Johnny come latelys, at least me.
Speak for yourself. Been here 25 years, lady.
But yeah, like Micah was saying, honoring that legacy and keeping the history alive is so very important. So, Mr. Lonnie, your group has worked to try to capture some of the oral histories with Navy Yard Charleston and the Charleston Historic Foundation. Tell us a little bit more about that project.
You reminded me of one of the sayings that I've heard that I try to keep in mind. It's hard to know where you're going unless you know where you've been. So it's important to capture that history, whether it's a corporate environment or a civil service, or regardless of what role you're in life. Well, we work with Navy Yard Charleston and the Charleston Historic Foundation. They had an opportunity to plug into our groups in a reunion and to meet some of our people, and they were interested. They've been critical partners for us. Like I said, we've started out with North Charleston at the Riverfront Park, and then we moved over to the Navy Yard Charleston group over in our old building 234, which they call a Noisette Rose Garden, and we were outside there. But each time we have a reunion, they had an interest in capturing some of the oral histories. And what a better way to do that than to interview some of our employees at these reunions, and then to identify some of the ones that had significant contributions that could share, that would lend itself to communicate to other people about the histories and their experiences. So they did a 5 video series. It's out there on YouTube. You can reach it at Dedicated to the Fleet. And basically it talks about the shipyard, how it was created, talks about the type of work that was going on and the contributions to the community, some of the things that I mentioned, but a little bit more detail from a personal story. Also, it talked about some of the challenges that individuals based on backgrounds or, women, African-American experiences or different folks involved of some of their challenges while working at the shipyard. And then it talked about in series number 5 about the closure of the shipyard and how that developed and things that were happening in that nature. So I invite anybody to go out, and Navy Yard Charleston, the Charleston Historic Foundation did a great job of capturing these stories. That's true. And they're out on YouTube, and they're able to communicate some of the history while we still have these folks around and be able to get some of those personal stories.
I've done some of that myself through my job here at the co-op. I work with South Carolina Living Magazine. So I've had the opportunities to interview some of our older employees and some of the folks who were instrumental in getting cooperatives started back when, in the 40s. And you're right, it's knowledge that really shouldn't be lost. It's foundational to who we are today. Where you started informs where you are 100 years down the road. Co-ops are, Berkeley Electric is now 85. And we're still keeping on ticking, but it's those roots of where you come from and just the stories that they have to share. One of our former superintendents, a gentleman named Dar Sullivan, I got to talk to when he was 90 years old, and just hearing some of the stories about the ways they used to do things was eye-opening, to say the least.
There are lots of stories. We have lots of stories too.
Yeah, definitely the days before OSHA was very prevalent in the workforce.
And from a classified, some things we can talk about, some we can't. So, and some we should.
Yeah. So I understand the work that you're doing, and it is very important because when I was here for our 75th anniversary, we actually found that there isn't a whole lot that was kept in a centralized location for the co-op. So that's one of the jobs that we have ahead of us, is trying to, gather those bits and pieces and put them into more of a coherent picture. And like you said, the retirees are one of the best ways to do that. So,
another reason that we are going through this level of effort to reconnect folks is, regardless of what part of the equation you were involved in with the BRAC process, for me, with another alphabet soup there is base, realignment, and closures. And many times that's a political decision, and obviously it was. The Charleston Naval Shipyard was sometimes, in many cases, the best shipyard as far as the best prices, the best costs. But because of political decisions at that time, and there's a lot of discussion there, a lot of controversy at the time, but that's what it was. Regardless of where you were on that, it had a result that it ended up affecting a lot of people's lives.
Oh, yeah.
And can't do anything about history. That's just the way it was, and a lot of people moved forward and went forward. But what we can do is look at reconnecting those folks and trying to have that network of support. That when you're working side by side with somebody on a ship every day or in an office every day, you're going through life decisions, and you're able to talk about what you're doing and what happened to you. And, in a community like Charleston, it's small enough, yet you would know somebody who knew everybody. So there's an opportunity to learn a lot from your coworkers on a daily basis. But then when you break up and you're splintered and you have something unplanned in your career, like base closure, that you don't have the opportunity to have that same network. So by putting them back together, and what we're trying to do here today is communicate to try to get folks to attend who should. And that way they realize that they have that network, that they can share those life experiences again, that there is life after, a situation like BRAC. And move forward.
Yeah. Well, so this year's reunion, as you said, is Saturday, March 28th, and that's a busy weekend. That's Bridge Run weekend, Flowertown Festival weekend, but you guys have a great event planned, and it's kind of sandwiched in between those two major events. Tell us more about the plans for this year's reunion.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's by design for us. What we found out is a lot of people, as I mentioned earlier, have transferred to different areas and then ultimately moved to Norfolk Naval Shipyard in Virginia, to Puget Sound up in Washington, or down to Kings Bay. A lot of our contingent of our folks went to Kings Bay in Georgia. So sometimes they travel back to the Charleston area, and there's still a number of folks here too. So we try to have it on that weekend, so when folks are here for the Bridge Run or for the Flowertown Festival or for the many other events that happen that same weekend. It's a little earlier this year on March 28th, but they can also, after the Bridge Run, we run from 12 o'clock till 5. And so they can run the Bridge Run and then also attend and come eat with us. We have it this year. It's going to be inside Building 64.
Okay.
Which is a LLC company now. It's a music venue.
Okay.
And basically what they're doing, and they have parties there, and they're in conjunction with Navy Yard Charleston, kind of a partnership there with them. And that group, we're inside an industrial warehouse where we've been outside each time before. So we're excited about that, and working with our partnership with Navy Yard Charleston and Building 64 LLC to accomplish that, and through our partners like yourself and the credit union and a few others to make that happen. So we're going to be inside. We're going to have music, DJ with sound, great sound system and stage that's in there, because they have a lot of concerts. So it's and we're looking forward to it. But we also have a pitmaster, well-known caterer in Charleston that's like the master. He's the best. It's Jamie Wessendorf.
Okay.
He does a lot of, the Oyster Festival. He does this Blessing of the Fleet. He does a lot, and he's really phenomenal. But the best part about it is not only does he got great barbecue and other fixings that he brings, but he did our closure catering, our ceremony back in '96.
So we got that historical, that tie-in to
He's
history.
done every one of our reunions, so everybody has a real close tie. He's a neighbor, lives not too far from me, but a
awesome.
tremendously wonderful guy who's done a lot of things for Charleston and a lot of awards for his contributions for Happy Days. And you name it, I couldn't list it. So anyway, we got great food, great barbecue, lots of stories going on, an opportunity for folks to share and to get back together and to meet. But I think it's important to mention at this time, it's not just for shipyard employees. It's for actually extended to all naval activities in Charleston.
Okay.
So, shipyard, when folks splintered and went to different places, you kind of scrambled and can continue your employment with federal. So you might have went to NAVFAC or the Naval Weapons Station or to Naval X or NICE East or Palm Plant or Soup Ship. So a lot of the shipyard workers went on to work other federal jobs. So there's been a lot of folks that have retired from those agencies, so they're invited too. So we have different stations where you can go and hang out with your group or see other people.
Okay.
So it's not just shipyard folks that are invited. All naval activities are invited to go to our, website, get tickets and to attend.
Okay.
And then so we wanted to share that as well.
Well, folks, if you want to sponsor the reunion, volunteer, attend all three, like Mr. Lonnie said, just visit the cnsyd.org website to get all the information you need about the upcoming event and the Charleston Naval Shipyard. Well, folks, that is going to do it for another edition of Power Talk. Thank you for tuning in. This is the official broadcast of your electric cooperative. You can catch up on past episodes on streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio. And as always, get a behind-the-scenes look on Berkeley Electric's YouTube channel. So until next time, this is Power Talk, signing off.